What would you say to anti-Israel protesters who point to you and say, look, we're not the only ones protesting Israel. Even in Israel, the hostage families are protesting against Israel.
Hostages family want only to stop the war and release all of them. We are not politics. We want only stop and release them. That's all.
But you guys love Israel. You support Israel and you support Israel's right to exist because they don't. They don't support Israel.
We are Israel. We like our country. All of us is soldiers and like it very much. And remember the 7th of October. We couldn't. We must remember it.
What kind of deal do you think Hamas would agree on to release all the hostages?
I don't know. I'm not in the negotiation team, but I know that we can do something, and they agree about something.
Why do you think Bibi's not getting a deal?
I don't know. I'm not in the negotiation.
Do you think that he's trying not to get a deal? Or he just doesn't believe there's a deal on the table that Hamas will agree to that's good enough?
I really don't know.
How long are you going to stay here?
Until my son come back to Israel.
You're going to stay here as long as it takes?
Yes.
Is everything guided by the emotion of the hardship, which obviously it must be, or is it have you thought practically how could this deal happen in real life?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Yeah. Yemini for Rebel News outside the Prime Minister's residence here in Jerusalem, where a protest has erupted, led by the families of hostages, some alive and others sadly passed. We're here today to find out, what are they really asking for? What are they demanding? Because when we see it in the mainstream media in Australia, it would seem that these guys agree with the anti-Israel mob that has taken over our streets. And I'm wondering, is that really true?
She's the mother of Sar Baruch. Her son was kidnapped alive and killed while being in captivity in Gaza.
Is this your son?
Yes.
What's his name? Tell us about him.
His name is Matan Angrest. Matan kidnapped all his team, murdered, and he kidnapped after a very brutality lynch to Gaza. We know that he is alive today, but they did him a very bad and difficult investigation with electricity power supply. And we are
torture. You're saying they've tortured him?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Hostages that been with him told us, and we know that is because he is the soldier, his condition very bad.
Why are you here? Why are you camping out here?
למה את פה?
סער נרצח ויש חטופים שהם חיים, חייבים להציל אותם.
My son was kidnapped and murdered in Gaza, but there is hostages who are alive and we have to save them.
So how will this save them?
איך הפעולה הזאת תעזור להציל אותם?
הם צריכים לשמוע שאנחנו זועקים, שכולנו, עם האנשים פה, כולנו צריך בעד להחזיר את כולם.
They have to hear, she refers to Prime Minister and his wife who lives here, they have to hear that everybody wants them back and everybody is shouting all over Israel and we want them back home, so they have to hear that.
We placed near Prime Minister's house and asked him to make a complete deal. Stop the war. We know that it could be only with the stop the war and put on the table a complete deal that released all of them. We know that only with complete deal we can release them.
So I think a lot of people around the world would agree that they want them home, but I think this protest is calling for an end to the war now, is that right?
Yes, it is.
So how do you think ending the war now will bring them back? Like, will Hamas just give the hostages back if the war ends today?
צריך לעשות הסכם שהוא יחזיר את החטופים, בסוף הוא יחזיר אותם. לפני שהם ימותו שם. מה זה יעזור לו שהם ימותו שם? אנחנו צריכים להציל אותם.
Hamas wants to end the war and the hostages are there. It doesn't help them to keep the hostages back in Gaza. If there will be an agreement that from one hand the war will stop and from the other hand they'll bring the hostages, it's going to be good for everybody.
Make a complete deal, and after that to think what to do. At the first,
But do you believe
To
Hamas
release
will
them.
agree to release them all?
I don't know. I know only to release the hostages.
Situation is crazy and we need to end it. We
just-
need to bring our soldiers home. We need to start working on agreements. The beginning of the agreements will be to bring the hostage, all the 48 hostages back home to the proper barrier, to their families, and to solve everything.
Don't you need the agreement before you bring the
No,
soldiers home?
no,
So you want to bring everyone out? Why would Hamas agree then?
Listen, I don't know, ask Hamas, talk to Hamas.
הבן השני שלי נרצח בבארי.
Her other son, Idan, was murdered in Be'eri while the October 7th massacre. She lost two sons in this day. One was murdered and the other one was kidnapped alive, and then he was murdered there.
ובאותו היום גם אימא שלי נרצחה.
And in the same day, her mother was murdered also
בעזרת גרזן.
with an axe.
Tell her I'm sorry. But my question is, can Hamas remain in power after that? After killing 3 members of her family and everything that they did? If ending the war now means Hamas can stay in power, is she okay with that?
הוא אומר שאם המלחמה נגמרת עכשיו, זה אומר שחמאס נשאר שם בשליטה בעזה. האם את בסדר עם זה?
צריך להחליף את השלטון. עזה יכולה להישאר, אבל לא עם החמאס, לא עם מי שהרג את המשפחה שלי.
She has nothing against Gaza and the people in Gaza, and they should have their rest. But Hamas cannot stay in power and in ruling the people of Gaza. But because of what they did, the war has to end, and everybody has to finish all this thing.
What if Hamas doesn't agree? What if Hamas is the one that's really stopping any deal from coming through?
The day after, they will be alive. The Hamas.
No, but I mean, like, what if they just don't want to release the hostages unless, I don't know, some outrageous...
Hamas know that if they will not release the hostages, all of them will die.
So this is where I'm wondering, because her story is sympathetic and you know, you can't help but, you know, the hairs on my arms are standing, but I just don't understand. If you end the war, Hamas doesn't agree to put down their arms, they don't agree to give up power, and they're not agreeing to release the hostages. So I'm not sure how ending the war would achieve that. It feels like you want both things.
הוא אומר שזה לא הולך ביחד, לדעתו. הנושא הזה של אם אנחנו נעשה עכשיו הסכם עם חמאס ונחזיר את החטופים ונסיים את המלחמה, אז הם יישארו. אז מה קורה? תדברי על נושא שההסכם כולל בעצם את ההסדרה של כל הדברים האלה. זה חלק מההסדרה.
ההסכם ייתן מענה גם למה שקורה בעזה, ובעצם זה חלק מההסדר. שמה שקורה שם למה שיקרה פה. אנחנו לא יכולים, מתישהו חייב להיות איזשהו הסכם. אי אפשר להיות במלחמה לנצח. במלחמה מתישהו חייבת להיפסק. אז היא יכולה להיפסק עם 800 חיילים שנרצחו, והיא יכולה להיפסק שעוד חיילים יהרגו ועוד חטופים יהרגו. יכולים להרג עוד חטופים.
The agreement should include all of this stuff. This is what they're talking about putting the weapons down and who is going to rule Gaza and release the hostages and ending the war. This is what the agreement has to do. This war cannot last forever. We already lost 900 soldiers and they lost. So this cannot go on forever. It has to stop, and it will be stopped only by agreement.
But isn't that what the government has said from the beginning? If Hamas puts down its arms and gives the hostages back, the war will end?
Not really.
They didn't agree that?
So the answers should be of my government and the people that are the leaders. I'm expecting for answers from the leaders. I'm expecting you to interview our leaders. and
We
to ask
are.
them,
We do interview
how
them.
can we end this?
We do interview them, and we do ask
But
them,
listen,
and they say that Hamas doesn't agree.
humanitarian right of bringing back these hostages is the most humanitarian law in the world.
They say they're trying. They say they're trying. You don't believe them?
Try harder. They need to try harder, and they
they
need
say-
to finish it. For all of us, they need to finish it. For all of us. For everyone. For both sides. For everything.
I can't imagine what you're going through. I got kids, and the last 2 years must have been absolute hell for you.
It's crazy.
So I guess people would watch this and people will think, is the position practical or emotional? Is it that you've got your son kidnapped, and I imagine that the only thing you've thought about for 2 years is your son, and all the memories you've ever had with your son and what he's going through now. So are you here?
It's crazy.
So is
And we think only good news, and we think about the day that Matan will release, and arrive to Kiryat Bialik. We live in Kiryat Bialik, and arrive to Kiryat Bialik and to Israel, and the celebration. That's all.
Just if the war will stop, they will come back.
So you believe if Israel stops their offensive there, you think Hamas will just release the hostages?
Yeah, we need to make agreements. We need to sign agreements, yeah.
Is Hamas a good faith partner? Could Israel rely on an agreement with Hamas?
It's not just with Hamas. It should be international with America, with Europe, with Saudi Arabia, and all the. Yeah.
The government here has consistently, from the beginning, said 2 demands: if you agree to them, we will end the war, release all the hostages, and lay down your arms. Hamas has never agreed to that. So why would they agree to it now?
I think that 2 years ago we were always more naive, and we had expectations that in some point Hamas would say, okay, you pressed us so hard, so we surrender and take the hostages, take the weapons. It's not a situation, and I understand that Hamas they're willing to we kill as more as citizens as we can in Gaza. This is good for them. Okay, this is their interest, because they don't care about the Gazan citizens. They don't care about their own people. They want them dead because because they're fundamentalists, they're Islamists, they're jihadists.
Everyone agrees on that point. What I'm just unclear on is, how do you practically go from here to ending the war if you say the end goal is to bring all the hostages back, plus Hamas can't be controlling Gaza anymore? I can't see how that is possible, because Hamas just won't agree to that, which is what the government says, which is why they're saying they have to push forward.
Hamas, this negotiations is not easy.
Because the war will stop just with an agreement. And in the agreements, other countries like America and Europe and the
Arabs.
they need to be responsible for this, not just Hamas or not just us. It should be international. This is the only solution.
Do you believe Hamas can stay in power or not?
We believe at the first we must release them. After that we will think. We know, every citizen in Israel, we know that Hamas is terrorist. They are terrorists, and all over the world they know it. At the first, we need to save a life, and we must to release the hostages.
I think this is time to stop, to say, okay, you take the prisoners, we take the hostages, we stop the war, and I know that we might, in 2-3 years, return to a conflict, but I think that the best thing for Israel is to accept these conditions right now.
So you're accepting Hamas will still be in control, and that you'll have to fight them again another day?
I tell you, Hamas already said that they accept the condition that they will not be part of the regime in Gaza, but they will not give their weapons. It's complicated. Okay.
Do you believe Hamas?
I don't believe Hamas. I believe.
Do you believe him more than
I believe,
Benjamin
I believe
Netanyahu?
that if the Israeli government will truly go to a negotiation, they can get some of the conditions, and eventually, as part of negotiation, we'll have to give something back.
If the deal means Hamas gets to stay in power, you think it's still a deal you should take?
We need to give them everything to release the hostages, and after that to think what to do.
They're saying they're going to camp here for as long as it takes until the war ends. This protest was essentially sparked from the new offensive into Gaza City, which is supposed to be the final offensive. I'm not sure the practicality of it. I guess I don't really hear what kind of deal they believe. You can understand, you can sympathise with the fact that people here, families of hostages, just want their family members back. If it was you or I, that's the first thing we would think of. That's the first thing we would want. On a practical level, does that mean allowing Hamas to stay in power? I guess it would have to, because there would be no deal that Hamas at this point would agree on that would mean releasing the hostages and giving up their arms. Do you believe that they should be allowed to stay in power if they release the hostages?
No, they won't will stay in power because there will be agreements.
But why would Hamas agree to that? Would Hamas agree to that?
Yeah, I think so.
כולם מוזמנים להישאר פה, לישון פה. יש פה משהו שצריך לשנה. תישארו עם משפחות, תישארו איתנו פה. כולנו פה. תודה לכולם.
So they're wrapping up the protest and they're telling the attendees here, they're encouraging them to join them to sleep with the families of the hostages, to camp out here, and they'll be back tomorrow. It's quite a civil protest, so you don't see this in Australia, and it's certainly not like the anti-Israel protests in Australia.
The only way we can keep living here in this country, Israelis and also the Palestinians, is to agree to stop the war, to bring the hostages home, that Hamas wouldn't be part of the regime in Gaza anymore. This is what we're demanding, and we are here with the families, which is over there after the...
Yeah, we spoke to some of them, but what I'm unclear about, because nobody can seem to explain to me, isn't that exactly what the government is saying they're demanding? That they've got to bring all the hostages back, and they've got to lay down their arms. They can no longer rule Gaza. So what is different in your demands to the government's demands?
I think that this government is not honest, and they don't really want any agreement with Hamas. Even if Hamas would say, okay, we agree to that you'll take our weapons and we're not part of anything anymore. Eventually...
Do you really believe Hamas would agree to that?
I don't think Hamas will give anything easily, okay?
Well, if you think it's important for the world to see what the anti-Netanyahu protests are really about, unlike what the mainstream media in Australia present them as, make sure to like, comment and share it far and wide. Because the thing is, if you actually speak to them, they essentially say they want the same thing as the pro-Netanyahu people, the pro-government, the pro-Israel people. They just think somehow if Israel withdraws now, Hamas is going to lay down their arms and release all the hostages. I think that that's naive and an emotional argument, but it's certainly not the way these people are presented in Australia. So it's up to you guys to share it far and wide. And if you support our mission here in Israel, showing the other side of the story on both sides, go to israeluncut.com and please help support our work here by chipping in to cover some of the costs. israeluncut.com. We cannot do it without you.